Good morning, everyone. I am super mega prepared today. I'm so prepared. I'm ready to do some painting. You guys ready to paint? There's a question in the chat that I was thinking about this morning. Summer Dragoness is asking, do you prefer to go by Pete or Peter? I've been curious how to address you. And the reason why I'm thinking about this is not, I honestly don't have an opinion. Like, as long as I know someone's speaking to me, the thing that drives me crazy is when I can't tell whether or not someone's referring to me or not. So, because I'm not super good at picking up on social cues. So as long as I understand that people are talking to me, there's very few ways that I not prefer to be addressed. But I was thinking, like, people are asking this question all the time. What does that say about everything else? Because obviously I feel like I'm missing something in terms of like the overall conversation of what, like, do people want to be asked this question? Because I know I get asked it a lot. And I'm like, that's weird. But now I'm thinking, like, maybe it's not weird. Maybe it's normal. And maybe I should be asking people how they like to be referred to more. Because I always thought it was just, I actually always thought it was just like a kind of a procedural thing and blew it off. But now I'm wondering, hey, maybe I should pay attention to this. See, like, maybe it's a good question I should be asking others. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, you definitely throw it in, like, if you meet someone new. Just, hey, I like referring to you correctly, or am I mentioning your name correct, or something like that?
Yeah. You go by Peter. Praetor.
Petey.
Yeah, I go by Petey Mohrbucks. Lights and C, first time chat. Mizoka, first time chat. Good to see some new faces around here. Welcome, welcome.
Wait, have I actually never typed in your chat before?
Yeah, you can go and get. Oh wait, that's you. Never mind.
Oh
I retract the compliment. Sorry.
Unlucky.
Peter, do you know of Apollonia St. Clair? Been studying their work lately, and it's been amazing. I don't know Apollonia St. Clair. That is a hell of a name. Way better than Petey Mohrbucks. I also go by Lucky Pierre. So, the most... Whoa, that was a noise. I think that was my wife.
Sorry.
Yeah! Oh my god, it's loud.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, wait a second. I'll turn you down.
Weird. I'm always too quiet.
No, I have you up to 150%. Came in like a shot. Holy shit.
I wonder how. I didn't do anything.
All right, so observant people in the chat might notice I'm doing something different today for once. I'm learning art, right? The frame is not the same size. I started with my usual thing. I was going to reproduce the same exact frame, but then I was thinking about this morning. What am I doing here? What am I doing with my life? I was looking at the reference and I was like, I don't know how this reference image made it in. I don't like it that much. It's kind of a cool thing. It was thrown in as part of like a bunch of Angelarium fashion-related reference. I don't think it's that good of an outfit. Hey, Kim, how's it going? So I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, I don't love it. But I've also not been picking and choosing, to keep myself away from the things that I've been avoiding studying. I'm trying to just like plow through the images that ended up in the folder one way or the other. And I realized that the thing I keep saying I'm going to do is I need to be a little looser about how I interpret the reference. So today, I am going to try to make a drawing that is based off the reference rather than try to reproduce it grid-like. Something that I was talking about yesterday and said I'm not going to do it. And then I realized that this was a great opportunity because this model is being shot with a telephoto lens, which absolutely flattens the perspective. These kind of telephoto shots, they're incredibly flat. They're a little bit stale and boring as a result. And they throw out the proportions a little bit, I think, too. Like, we're used to seeing people in perspective. And so when you flatten everything out, it looks a little odd, especially with this giant headdress on. It looks a little top heavy. So I was thinking that maybe I could exaggerate the pose a little bit and maybe just like make something that is deeply inspired by the photo here without actually doing specifically like the exact shapes as they're arranged on a 2D plane here. And I could even get in there and maybe dress up the head a little bit. You know, it's kind of this abstract, arbitrary head. Do something the same, but like maybe a little bit less like a giant loaf of bread on her neck. And maybe like make it a little cooler, because I think it's a cool idea generally. I just think the shape of it is a little loaf-like at the moment. And so, you know, it makes me a little freaked out, a little scared, which is exactly why I should be doing it. Because anything that like induces that little bit of discomfort, that little fear, usually something important to do. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started on this. Boy, I'm like actually sweating a little bit, and not just because I ate the spiciest shakshuka I've ever made, or a hot cup of coffee, or the fact that it's stuffy down here in the bunker, but I'm like
All of the above.
I don't want to. Yeah, all the above, and I don't want to look. I don't want to embarrass myself in front of chat. Speaking of chat, some random guy 73. I don't know if I shouted this out last time. Thank you for the tier 1 sub. Better safe than sorry. All right. Enough procrastination. So how should I go about getting this drawing done? Is the question I'm asking myself, because if I were to try to draw it kind of in, like, straight in the scene here, where it's like, let's say here's the top of the head and here's the foot, and I try to, like, you know, segment everything down exactly right, I feel like I'm at the risk of kind of like making some parts too big or too small, and also maybe not doing what I want in terms of the subtleties of the gesture here. When I draw digitally, typically what I do is I draw oversized. And that it evens out some of the awkwardness of drawing where I can't see my hand, where I'm just following the cursor. And then I scale those bits down. So I start with the most important pieces, and I'm going to start here with the torso. And then I take that and I scale it down in order to get a kind of faux accuracy. It's sort of like zooming in and drawing and then zooming back out again. But I don't know. There's something about like the experience of drawing big and then zooming down that feels like I get a kind of free level of detail that I always enjoy. Actart is saying, hey, I'm at the end of the tribute to Frank Frazetta. Really fun with it. It was a cool challenge. Thanks for that. Hey, Hand Stitch. Good to see new faces around here. Yeah, the Frank Frazetta challenge, it is due in 2 days. Anybody who can feel like they can start and finish it in 2 days, you're welcome to give it a shot. Check it out over on the Discord. I'm going to hit the Discord button. It's there in the Twitch chat. Look for the weekly challenge prompt. We're doing a tribute to Frank Frazetta this week. You can twist that however you want. You can do a Frank Frazetta style, Frank Frazetta subject matter, like barbarians or whatever. It's the kind of thing Frank Frazetta would do, but do it in your own style, which I think would be really cool to see, especially from our community members that have really unique styles of their own. Or you could try to make the kind of thing that you normally do, but in the aesthetic of Frank Frazetta, which is might be what I would have done if I were participating in this challenge. Ooh, I'm gonna actually edit some hotkeys here. One of the old hotkeys I always would do is I would have flip horizontal and flip vertical on F1 and F2. I don't know what is mapped there right now, but I just tried to do it right now and realized it didn't work. Let's see, brushes, panel menus, no. Application menus, yes. Edit. I'm looking for transform. rotate, flip horizontal. Nothing is mapped for that right now. F1, F2. Okay. This way, yeah. So flipping. I'm realizing almost immediately that I had like the bust. The. You know what? This is maybe not even what I want to do is flip it, but the new thing that I'm running into in Photoshop that's throwing me is that when I switch to the eraser tool, it's like it's got a very particular brush on it. And then when I go to change it to a different brush, it's like it changes the tool with it, so now I'm using a brush tool instead of the eraser. And so I'm drawing again. So I go there and I go to like switch the brush over. And so I need to like create eraser shortcuts in my brushes panel because I can't change what tip shape the eraser is because it works fundamentally different than like how I'm used to having things set up. So I've got to fix that at some point. Thankfully, I don't use the eraser tool that much. I was also thinking about seeing if I could get like one of these brush folders, like maybe the defaults or whatever, in hide it somewhere around the UI here, because being able to popping in and out of this menu has been a little bit of a burden. I used to always have them down here in the corner back when my UI was set to microscopic mode. Yeah, I thought for some reason, like I was sort of anticipating that the bust was going to go the same direction as the shoulders, but then I'm seeing how far this right shoulder is dipping up above the left here, and I'm realizing that while the rib cage is tilted this way, the bust is coming with it. So I'm actually having to address these kinds of issues by drawing based off of the structure of it rather than trying to draw it literally, which is that's the exact challenge for today. So I'm getting right into it. So I think I should probably get the bust to follow along with, if I'm going to push the rib cage over further than it is in the reference, then I should definitely have it line up consistently. I get this one eraser until I can figure out how to solve this problem. All right, I'm taking it slow, and I'm taking coffee sips. I hope you don't mind. All right, I got my new hotkey for the lasso. It's working in situations like this. The other hotkey I use a lot here is Control automatically goes to the Move tool. It is, for some reason, creating a marquee. I don't know why. This is, again, a difference between CC and... it's like if I have a selection made, Control will move that selection. But it won't move the layer by clicking and dragging here. I wonder if there's a setting here I need to do. Because if I go to the Move tool here, oh yeah. Oh my God. Show transform controls. I want auto select off. Oh, there we go. That's all I needed. Thank God. So now if I'm back on the brush and I hold Control, oh, there we go. I can move my layer again. So yeah, like it looks like this her right shoulder is kind of getting thrust forwards, and it's dipping closer to the top, dipping towards the top of the corset, and while the left shoulder is sort of rising up above it. We're going to exaggerate that a little bit. I also wonder if we can get a little bit more of the forms of the torso in here exaggerated inside this drawing as well. Okay. And now, typically when I want to scale stuff, I go to the Move tool, and if I have Show Transform Controls ticked, I got the handlebars here to be able to auto do this. Though all the hotkeys for this are all different than they are in the version of Photoshop I'm used to, in CS6. So I'm kind of having to relearn my muscle memory there too. So we got, the head is like down and tilted a little bit off to the side. So we can start with this broad mask. I like the idea of like the birds coming up off of this thing. Make some room here. I think I want to see if I can exaggerate that a little bit. Probably need to draw a bird better than that though. I keep seeing tons of chat and looking over like I'm trying to stay better about it, and it's all Dustin, and I'm like, I don't care what Dustin's saying. I don't need to read Dustin's chat. It's all right. It can feel bad. It's fine. So Anya, what are you working on your trying to make a daily painting today too? You're working on your daily watercolor?
No, I'm working on something else. I'll show you later. It's a secret.
Oh, fuck. Shit. Okay, fine. I guess I won't ask about it then.
I probably will make it into watercolor eventually.
Uh-huh. So we get a hint?
But no, because I had this idea, and like it might be a good idea or it might be a bad idea, and I don't want to.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't want to hype myself up and then like not do it.
Uh-huh.
So.
Oh, you know, I mean, that's kind of the name of the game here. That's what I'm doing, is putting myself in awkward situations by committing to things in public spaces.
It's like, I think it's one of those where it looks better in my head than it's actually gonna be when it's all done. But we'll see. I'm here. I'm just kind of like, listening with half an ear, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm not worthy. It's true, I'm not worthy
listening
of a whole
to complaining, well, not complaining, saying that Justin, oh my God, Dustin does not matter.
Yeah, Dustin counts as a person, but his chats, I don't need to read them. I need to read everybody else's. I might make her face a biblically accurate angel with wings. A little angelarium mask. Now, what I want to do here, my plan, that's a good idea, but my plan for this today, and I'm going to try to stick to my plans, is to use a lot of what's happening here already in the image, but get a little bit creative with like the overall shape of it. Because right now you can see it's so square. I just want to I want to narrow it at the chin. I want to blow up the birds thing. This is it's like a hair bun, I think, but it ends up creating this like very nice kind of like eclipse. It looks like an eclipse with like the edge of a sun coming out from it to make a kind of halo, which I think is freaking sweet. So I want to get like whatever pile of flowery stuff that's up here to kind of sit. I don't really want it to be like a nest. I want it to be more like maybe it is getting more nest-like, but I want it to be like more flowery like and come down through the face in a little bit more of a organic way.
It is a weird headset.
Yeah, and then she's got these like bulbs on it that are these like decorative kind of things, and it makes this kind of like, if we simplify it down a little bit, we end up with this kind of like gray fox-esque cyber ninja eye in the center, which I think is pretty cool. And so we have this sort of Baroque, ornate, like face mask thing that could be really cool, especially if I can punch up the contrast on it a bit.
Hey, Pete, I might have missed it, but did you mention why you're choosing to go with a line sketch this time instead of a blocking?
Yes, and for anybody else who missed it, I decided that today, instead of following I want to do my study more like you, Adam, and do a little bit more of an original drawing, rather than try to sort of follow along with the structure grid-like the way that I've been doing, to make something that's a little bit more interpretive of the reference rather than, a strict like replication of it. And so to do that, I'm starting with a drawing first. And I'm not using a canvas that's at the exact same proportion as the other one because I'm not going to be judging it based off of whether or not it proportionally fits into the canvas the same way. So I want to exaggerate out like the drawing here a bit. And to do that, I'm going to have to sort of build it from scratch because I think that it's possible to do that with a sort of outside-in like silhouetted approach like I've been doing. Like we talked a little bit about that yesterday about how it's possible for artists to kind of work outside in using like building a silhouette and then carving it up. But when it comes to like actually drawing out a structure, I think I have a way easier time just having a drawing. And so for one of the very first times, I'm actually making a drawing from scratch here. And I'm gonna build it like I would if I were drawing without a reference, almost.
Looking forward to it. See how it turns out.
Yeah, we'll see. It came out sounding kind of like a mobster.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll
Bright
see,
thoughts.
huh? We'll swing with the fishes tonight. See what Johnny Fingers thinks about a brand new pair of concrete shoes.
Speaking of drowning, how's hurricane status?
How's what? Sorry, I was laughing.
Hurricane status.
Oh, hurricane status. Yeah, that's dark. Somebody probably is going to drown today. Not me, though. We are fine. Downtown Sarasota is slightly underwater. Not tremendously
And St.
underwater.
Armand's.
And
St.
like
Armand's is underwater.
St. Armand's, the sort of tourist area out on the other side, on the key outside of Sarasota, is like is pretty getting a couple feet of water today. And we should be seeing about the high water mark of it in the next hour or so because it started to flood and then high tide was rolling in. I was being told it's called the King Tide. So King Neptune is coming by to fuck
blue
everybody's
moon
stuff.
also.
Oh yeah, there's a blue moon. There's all kinds of... We got a blue moon and a king tide and all kinds of shit on the same time that it's getting hit by a hurricane. So the storm went
But we were
south of
really
us
far
and then
from-
west of us and then hooked just north of us. So we've been on the edge of it for like 12 straight hours, but it hasn't actually hit us. So it's been rainy, it's been windy, some plants fell over in the yard. That's been about it.
But like I would say the night was a lot calmer than some nights we've had in the past.
Right.
Yeah, there was there are people in Sarasota that are without power at the moment, and we're not one of them. So we got power and internet. So the worst of it is behind us at this point. For like we're personally our household's kind of out of the risk area. So I think I'm probably going to be online for the rest of the week. I'm in good shape. And well wishes to anybody who is potentially dealing with the worst of the hurricane right now. There's some spots in the Panhandle that look like they are in trouble today. Getting smashed with a Category 4 right to the dome. So the reason why I like to do this, the reason why I like to do this kind of zoom in drawing is kind of becoming apparent here. You can see that I'm getting finer lines and greater detail in the area of focus, and then as we're getting towards the edges, the marks are naturally becoming larger. So I get this kind of natural shape hierarchy. As I gotta stop holding down keys. There we go. It naturally creates a little bit of a hierarchy in the marks, which is what I want. Marching ants are making it hard here. Sean's texting me. Oh, hey, he's telling me the bar. It's Sean's birthday today, so he's asking if I'm. He's like, the bars are open today. So while the downtown,
that's right.
While the downtown is partially flooded, one of the his favorite bar is currently open. So I'll probably end up going out for some celebratory drinks tonight with the old Sean Murray. I mean, older now than ever before, I guess. Okay, so I've got this. This is like exaggerated a little bit, but not tremendously. I was kind of wondering like how far I should go with the exaggeration because like the legs, I think the long legs is a cool thing. I might lengthen the legs out a little bit here. I typically do this a decent amount when I'm drawing digitally, which is to reproportion things as I'm going, move things around. I actually even do this quite a bit when I'm pulling a drawing into Photoshop for the first time, because there's always like bits that I have out of place, structural stuff that I'm not happy with, and so I will grab sections of my drawing and tug them around to try to feel like I'm getting them in a place that I want. This is definitely different than the thing here, but I feel like her arms got shorter. I wonder, I wonder if maybe it's just that the lower body just got, maybe like the upper body got small because I was going for a slightly larger head and larger legs. And now I'm wondering if it's just falling so far out of proportion that that's what's like throwing me here.
You made her thinner too. Like she's got much of a.
Yeah, she is a lot thinner. So let me try actually going the other way on this and seeing if I like the overall look of it more. Cause it really is a matter of like, which one's the? There we are. Control is the one. I already broadened her shoulders a bit, but let me broaden the waist a little bit by just pulling the section out. She's got the shoulders coming in low over here. Coming in high up here. And then I'm going to block in some really rough values here to start to get a sense on the overall shape and balance of this thing, because looking at just the loose sketch marks don't tell me a ton. I don't feel like I have a great sense of it, even if I theoretically have all the info I need. I find it sometimes hard to read when you're not getting to see the whole picture. Maybe I should draw underneath it for some of this. So Adam, what have you been up to, man?
Well, I'm almost done that painting from hell that I've been grinding at. I'm at the point where I'm just going to close it out and move on. But I wanted to see, I wanted to take a crack at the Frazetta challenge and see
Oh shit!
if I could crack something out in a couple days to challenge myself to get fast results.
Adam, what are you thinking of? Like, what element of Frazetta? Also, hello everyone, it's Sam.
Hey, Sam.
What element of Frazetta do you feel inspired by right now that you want to? I'd love to see an Obsidian Grove take on Frazetta for sure.
Well, I like the way he is really aggressive with the way he designs his shadow shapes with anatomy, and how he'll just have continents of shadow, and it's not afraid to have them also join up and glob together in a really cool way.
By the way, I have a running list of cool band names, and Continents of Shadow is now on that list.
Yeah.
It does sound like something ChatGPT would come up with if you asked it to come up with a band name.
I love it. You already and what I love about that is that you have this very you already have that, I think, that kind of thinking in your art. But I'd love to see you even further accentuate shadow in your pieces. Yeah, I think that would be really cool.
But it is really quite different from what you normally do this. Because like you tend to be very you tend to get very obsessive with detail.
Yeah.
And so this like minimalist approach to shadows, these very flat shadows, is like very different from what you typically do for yourself.
Exactly, and I'm kind of taking this as a what parts of my practice I feel like have holes in it, and what about Frazetta's painting are things that I could learn from and trying to create an exercise based off of that. Because you are right, like I do get very obsessed with detail, and sometimes the bigger communicative language of the piece is lost, which sometimes works well, but I want to see what it's like to not have that happen.
Sure. It's so funny you guys say obsessed with, because I envy it, because I started in the more stylized, simplified, I guess, end of the spectrum, and I've always looked up to you, Adam, for just your sense of detail. You know, one thing though is in terms of like the kind of the optics of when you think of those continents of shadow, is that there's that whole common trope of purposely losing detail in shadow, because that's like how the human eye would see shadow.
Yeah.
Is that you literally there's not light there by definition, and so you don't see the details. But yeah, so it'd be cool to see you kind of apply that. Adam, may I shamelessly plug Obsidian Grove in the Twitch chat?
You're so sweet.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I are you gonna be taking a crack at this, Sam?
Hell no.
No, come on.
We have this we have this special breed of chatter that is Sam and Jay, who have a lot of commentary about everything, but are often too shy to actually throw their own hat in.
Yeah, no, I should say that Jay and I did start a 3D challenge on the server. I'll reiterate it now because for those who may be interested, but we are doing a character sculpt, a 3D sculpt in any medium you want. So a few of us are working in ZBrush, but I think Jay's working in traditional clay of Uriel, of Pete's Uriel painting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. So and we are and so. It's somewhere on the server. I posted the ground rules, but base meshes are permitted. Foreground and background elements are optional but not required. So the idea is that the character could be like 3D printed, right? It could be a mini. That's the idea. So you would focus on that. Color is not required as well, and it is due on Halloween. So we've got a little bit of time, but I've been slacking off because I've been working on my personal project.
That is a bit of time.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah, but I am bringing this up to evade the Frazetta challenge, so I refuse to. No comment.
Well, I have not. I said, I think yesterday, that I was like, it does not make sense for me to make challenges based on my own art, because this whole server is not about me. It's about like learning art together. And so, but if you want to make a challenge that's all about me, what am I supposed to say? Am I supposed to say, no, don't give me attention and love? I don't want a love and attention. Of course not.
That's why you're streaming, right?
Everyone knows this about me. I hate getting attention.
Yeah. I mean, I famously dislike Pete Mohrbacher at like a personal and moral level.
Yeah, so you want to make me uncomfortable by creating a tribute to me.
Yeah, it's the goal, and I can already feel us succeeding. Anya, just for a bit of context, and Adam knows this too. Like Pete's like one of my first art parents. Like I've been looking up to him for basically since I started doing art. We're roughly the same age as well, so it's been really cool the last few months to like interact on the server. And it turns out he's a terrible person. So this is it's amazing how you can really separate the art from the man.
Yeah, you really
he's
can.
the worst, isn't he?
Yeah. Resin Mancer, which I just realized is a freaking amazing name for someone who does 3D in Twitch chat, asks, is there a special channel for it? To my knowledge, there's no special channel for 3D in Huckleberry. I'm not even sure I would propose that for what it's worth, Pete, just because going to your point, is I like that we're kind of organically there.
Yeah.
But Resin, let me...
feel free to coordinate with Dustin about adding any kind of channels or like descriptions necessary to facilitate making cool art.
Dustin, I'll DM you maybe after the stream about it. I'd love for there to be a way for me to, I don't know, pin that challenge, or we'll talk about it. But it's like,
because I heard you guys discussing it, I didn't realize you were actually going through with it and had it written down somewhere.
Obviously, it's super informal. So far it's Jay Doomspoons, who you may remember. Pete joined like last week or 2 weeks ago. I think that not Doomspoons, Deathwing Ace, who joined a few weeks ago, and then Doomspoons, who's been on for a while. He also jumped on. So we've got at least 4 people working on the challenge, and I've already begun blocking it out.
Holy shit.
It's an interesting challenge. Like, this is my first time working off of a 2D concept, let alone a painting that I've loved for a while. And I don't need to tell y'all, like, there are some interesting challenges, right? Because you can't see what's in the back, so you have to kind of like extrapolate from that. And then that creates the opportunity, I think. Like, obviously we could ask you questions about it, but I think it'd be more interesting to just see what creative liberties the 3D artist takes.
Agreed.
Yeah. I personally plan to sculpt the fire. So I will be looking at maybe some like of the old masters and some of the Baroque era sculptors to see like how they approach that. I don't know that Bernini sculpted fire, but there were definitely some of his contemporaries who did, and so that would be kind of cool. But I'm pretty stoked about it. I'll probably be done with my personal project in the next few weeks, and then I'll move on to that. So anyway, fuck Frazetta, I think is the takeaway from this conversation.
I'll pass that along to Sarah.
Yeah, please do. No, please don't. That's so cool that you have her on, by the way.
You know, all of this is on the record, right?
Oh yeah, this is literally. I'm the worst lawyer. Anya, the other thing you should know as a lawyer is like I forgot this is literally recorded. Someone more seriously, if I were to do the Frazetta challenge, I think for me, it would probably be. I'm kind of applying this a little bit in my work now, but like I've always been really compelled by his balance between structure and gesture. I mean, some of his stuff is not even anatomically like. If you were to try to hold some of the positions, the physical position, it wouldn't work. But that's like it's the same thing with Bridgman too. Like,
there's even really weird logical inconsistencies that don't take a lot of like stretch to find. Let me pull up some awesome like Frazetta, total like Frazetta fails here, like to sort of emphasize the point of how little it matters. Oh, here's a good one. This guy right here is lifting his sword above his head, but for him to bring the sword down, he'd have to get his elbows past his own horns.
Yes. That was like top 3 examples in my head right now.
Where's the one with the polar bears? Yeah, the polar bears. He's got these polar bears. The polar bears don't have harnesses on them. So there's no way that the polar bears would be attached to the sled. So he never bothered to create harnesses for it because we understand that when you have 4 animals running in front of a sled that they're pulling it. And so he's like, I don't need to show you that. You get it. But also this cloud in the background is so fucking sick. It's like instead of drawing an entire cloudy background, he just did like one wash and drew like a cloud.
Yes. And
like some like smears coming off of it. And I'm like, fuck that. I have to make a background that's that minimal. Or it's like, it's not a cloud. It's like the top of a mountain in the distance. I have to do a background that's like just this one crunchy bit and like everything else empty, because that's a ballsy move right there. It's excellent.
Hey, you could try today.
I'm gonna be doing a minimalist background already, just because I do them on the studies. But I've got a couple more tarot cards and some I'm gonna redo. So I definitely am not gonna be short on opportunities to make ballsy art in the style of Frank Frazetta.
Balls. But Resin Mancer says the back anatomy for 4 arms will be interesting. I assume in connection with Uriel.
Yeah.
Already been running into that. Because you're sort of like oh, there's like 2 delt insertions, and what does that mean? Do I just squeeze it in between the serratus? Like and then the answer is like, sure, it's an angel. You can do whatever the fuck you.
There's so many classical. Like I was talking with this one guy who's really into just like classical art, and he was showing me all these old etchings and stuff where they didn't even bother with anatomy at all. And so it's like, these classical etchings where all the muscle men are just lumps. There's no understanding of like how the muscles overlap at all. They just show like these incredibly lumpy dudes, and they're just like, we want to make the lumps as aesthetic as possible, and we do not care what a person is shaped like.
Yeah, I mean that's actually my type. Oh, the other thing, Anya, I feel like we're gonna summarize my entire MO in a few minutes. Is I'm very gay and I'm very thirsty. So that's the other thing you should know about me. So that's basically my type. I mean, like I'm not like it's about lumps. It's also about biblically accurate angels. That's like on my Grindr profile. That's my type. That's what I put down.
Okay.
If you don't have 100 eyes, I'm not interested.
I want 100 eyes and I want 100 lumps.
Yeah, just like, and those are mutually exclusive. I want them additional to each other.
Yeah.
But what was I gonna say? Yep, lost my train of thought. Never mind. But Adam, yes, okay, maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll do this. Only because you brought it up, Adam, and I love you. And
I'd love to see it, man. I'd love to see it. Because you said you're really interested in how he combines gesture and something else.
It's such an abstract thing, but I mean that's valid, right? Like that's valid to be like what, because I forget if you were on yesterday, Adam, but Pete and I were talking about how like subject matter wise, I am not the target demographic for Frank's art, but so like I like deeply respect him as an artist, and I am inspired by what he did, and that's like at the heart of what inspires me. To put maybe a bit more concrete details on that. So I guess I have this thing where I am, for some reason in my heart, I feel like there's something mutually exclusive between structure, which I also like for some reason hang detail on that, versus gesture. So do you remember my Hermes drawing, Adam?
Yes.
The one I did,
Yep.
yeah, the one my dad passed away. That is very stylized. And looking at it now, I'm actually really proud of it. I'm proud of the general shape design. I'm proud of the sense of gesture. But I probably could have spent 10 to 20 more hours on adding some more refined details. You know what I mean? Like thinking about anatomy a bit more, adding a bit more sense of structure on it. So it's not so much because I need to like show anatomy, because it's whatever, it's like it was very cartoony, but because I think that those actually serve storytelling purposes, because there's a sense of right now when I look at that drawing, I'm proud of it, but it feels a bit unmoored from experience. And one of the whole points of that drawing was to feel like Hermes was confronting the viewer, right?
Yeah.
Like that he was present with the viewer, and form and structure can really help to express those things. So, so I think that when I look at Frazetta's stuff, and I suspect it's one big reason why a lot of people like Frazetta, is that yes, the stuff is over the top. Sometimes it's contradictory, but there is a sense of like that the muscles could be touched. Sorry, that's like, I can't help but be thirsty, but like, right, like it's like that the flesh could be touched, that there's a sense of just like the glistening stuff is very, glistening flesh is very campy, but it's also it's very visceral, right? So that's kind of the interplay that I'm thinking of, that I'd love to have even a simple study, a simple painting where maybe just an anatomical form where I play with those ideas.
Right.
Very abstract, but you know me well enough to know that I could actually do something with what I just said.
Yeah, well, I mean, like you guys observed, Frank is somebody who is willing to break the rules of realism in order to give way for something to be abstractly pleasing, in a way that, like, I think, like even in the study that Pete was doing yesterday, like there were some things anatomically about the model that were just not right, but the placement of the features in a way that made the composition work well, you kind of forgive it.
Summer Dragoness and Kim Isfiri in chats are saying, do it, Sam. So I'm proposing a self-portrait of me slicked in oil, but I have 4 arms.
I mean, you said that, you're not really the target demographic.
You're like,
for,
I'm going to have to get
Frazetta.
some what do you call it? Some cosmetic surgery done to add a couple extra arms. But it'll be worth it. It'll be worth it as a matter of reference.
Is one a real artist if they don't go to those lengths?
Yeah.
I think the question answers itself. Yeah. Kim says biblically accurate, Sam.
Yeah.
Summer asks, what kind of oil are we aiming for here? Okay, actually, from a medicinal, like from a physiological level, that is actually a very good question, because I don't want to break out in hives. So not essential oils. Or was someone going to say something and then I rudely interrupted?
Well, whenever I think about people getting oiled up, I always think of the same story, which is how all of the executives from CCP got kicked out of GDC that one year. The guys I used to work for at CCP, they liked the two companies. It was a merger of two companies, right? It was White Wolf Games, which made like Vampire the Masquerade, and then the guys who made EVE Online, the Icelanders. They basically built an MMO with like Icelandic government money. And it's still around as like a subscription MMO today, which is an incredible feat. But the way in which they bonded was really due to their mutual love of getting super fucked up, like getting drunk and doing cocaine. So they were at GDC, and I'm pretty sure they had both of those. And then they decided that the only way for them to truly experience like whatever they meant to experience was to do naked oil wrestling.
Sure.
As in a non-sexual context, but in a purely masculine expression of dominance. This is a very Frank Frazetta moment, right?
Yeah.
And
if you say no homo at the end legally, it's not gay.
Yeah.
So.
And you're a lawyer,
Yeah.
so you would know this.
100%. That's right.
And so they decided to get naked and find whatever oil they could, but then they couldn't find the kind of oil they needed, so they ordered down to room service for oil. So some poor room service guy shows up to a bunch of wasted Europeans who are buck naked and fighting each other. And so they get the oil, and then of course the fight spills out into the hotel, and so you have these like lubed up naked men like engaged in martial combat going up and down the hotel, and that's why they were kicked out of GDC. And then I know this story because when they came back, they bragged about it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not blowing up their shit. Like, this was a moment that they're like, it was so awesome. Our guys got kicked out of GDC for doing naked oil wrestling. And I was like, and at the time, I mean, it was a lot younger, and I was thinking like, oh, that's so cool. Everyone is like, I wouldn't do that, but they're like such badasses or whatever. And now, as somebody who's a little more mature, I'm like, what a bunch of fucking dumbasses. They went there to do a job. They spent a shitload of company money, and then they got wasted and got kicked out for fighting naked in the hotel hallway. Like, no wonder that MMO was in pre-production for 7 years and never came out. Like, that was who was manning the ship. If you guys want to know why that, like, there was some YouTuber I follow just about to release like a 4-hour plus documentary on EVE Online, and I'm wondering what depth of detail they're going to get into sort of the company culture that is behind that stuff, because the game itself is totally weird and interesting on its own, being the weird spaceship spreadsheet game. But then, like, there's this other layer on top of it, which is the the hyper masculine, like, constant fight for dominance that was sort of driving a lot of the decision making. It led to them wasting several $100 million and like the lives of all the people that were working in their Atlanta studio. It definitely an instructive moment in my life to get to see all that happen firsthand. And part of the reason I don't really work in the games industry anymore is because like I had a couple of weird experiences like that in a row, and then I just decided I didn't want to keep doing it. I dumped out, which I do not regret one bit. I'm very happy with where I ultimately ended up with it, but sometimes I look back and wonder like, well, how come I didn't stick with games? It was always my dream to make video games. And I still talk about, I'd love to get involved in an indie project or something someday. And yet here I am, like, having completely exited that industry. And it's like I look back and I go like, oh yeah, naked oil wrestling. That's who I'm working for. When I gave it a shot, it was people who thought that was a good idea.
This is one of the great grown-up lessons, is that something that one may or may not like in the abstract, like how it actually interacts with the real world, like the way it actually exists in the real world can be very different. Like even in law, like I have a lot of undergrad students who want to get into law, and I'm like, I'll talk to them about it, and I'm like, I just need to understand, that a lot of people want to go into law because they want to help people, and it is a service profession. But law, at least in the U.S., the way it's come up, is essentially a capitalist shill. Like it's like
right.
Like
it exists
like
for the advancement of corporations.
Exactly right. Like I don't, I feel comfortable even saying this on the record. Like I love my job. For those that don't know, I work in entertainment. I'm a video game lawyer, and I like it. I like the people I work with. But at the end of the day, I recognize that I don't get paid as much as I do because I like work more than a custodian, right? Like I don't do X number of dollars more labor. Like that's not how it is. I get paid more because I am generating capital for
Yeah.
industry. That's what I do. So. And I will take it, because I can use it to help my family, but like I don't have, there's no sense of like, labor superiority or certainly no spiritual superiority. And that can be really disenchanting for some people, right? Because that also means that there's a Faustian pact there. Also speaking of demonic pacts, Jay is here now. Hey Jay. But and I'm sober to it, but if somebody coming in to law with like a really Pollyanna view of it, like the come down's really harsh. Their law can be really cool, by the way, in certain jurisdictions, but in the U.S., there's a long history of it being just an ally to mercantile and capitalist interests. Likewise, with video games and with art, is like this idea of doing art for a living is really cool in the abstract, but I don't need to go into detail. I'm sure plenty of the people who are on stream right now can think of examples of like, wow, I got my first job and it was kind of soul crushing because of X, Y, and Z, right? Because it's like deadlines, or because I'm like, I'm not doing my own art, which it turns out that was a really important part of it.
Well, I mean, was it yesterday? I was showing off more lore of like was it yesterday or was it last week, or I don't remember, but I was showing off the work from the first studio I worked at. Did you catch that? The Webfoot Games.
No, I wasn't.
Adam was here. We were looking at it. It was like Homies Rollers. It was a Mario Kart clone using an IP that was all racist caricatures for the Game Boy Advance. And then I worked on My Little Pony Runaway Rainbow for the Game Boy Advance and PC. And then I also did a little work on the Tonka Truck game. And so we were checking out their website and taking a look at their many amazing creative works. That was my very first entrance into the games industry.
Yeah.
And like I was able to do it for about 6 months, and then I dumped out, and like that's why I took a run at freelance, was like because that was every single time I've like tried to jump into this industry, it's always turned into something like that, where it's like I get in thinking I have one thing I'm going to be doing, and then I discover, oh wait, there's also this other stuff. There is.
Yes.
I thought I was going to be making a cool anime fighting game. Instead, I'm making pony-themed mini games, for the Game Boy Advance, and it's like, aha. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll just suffer through this, and we got something cool on the horizon. And it's like, nope, it is Tonka Trucks, and it is.
Yeah, it's just turtles all the way down.
There's cool shit happening, and like a lot of people they find what's cool about what they're working on, and like I was like, yeah, I can do that. That's me. And then at some point, several months in, I was like, this isn't me. Like I am not the person who thinks like I'll just do this as a job, 9 to 5, and it's still fun to be part of games, and this place is fine, and I'm just gonna keep like working my way up, and like it's just great that I've got a job, working at a computer in a nice little air conditioned office, and it's like it's not too hard and it pays all right. Actually, didn't pay all right. I was get paid $29,000 a year to work there.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a lot of money coming out of college, and then I look back on it and go like, holy shit, that was nothing.
I hope people who are listening, especially some of the younger folk, understand there's a lot of nuance to what we're saying, because it's not like this, the takeaway from this is not like don't get into games. It's not the point at all.
No. It was like it was my the reality is it wasn't my cup of tea.
Yes. Yeah. Everyone's got to figure out like what is the calculus that they conduct, right? What are we willing to give?
What's right for you is more important than what I think about it or how my experience went. And the only thing I can really do is like tell you how it was for me, and to create a data point. It doesn't.
Yes,
there's no conclusion that you can make from listening to me complain about, trying to work in the games industry and working and getting like exposed to bad work conditions and insane bosses and like, disillusionment. Like, yeah, it doesn't actually matter. I mean, it only matters to me because it's only my experience. And also, that was a long ass time ago. Like,
Yep.
we're talking 2007.
The industry's changed a lot, like especially in the last 5 years, and one can talk about for better or for worse and along what lines. But yeah, it is different, and even back then, I'm sure that like people probably interacted with those forces differently. Like maybe some people, and as you might guess, like I'm not into racism, homophobia, misogyny. But let's say that someone were in that situation, the analog that comes to mind is I used to work for a pretty problematic law firm, but I was very heads down. I didn't really, I didn't go golfing with anyone. I wasn't like social. I just paid my dues, and I was like, I'm in this for 2 to 3 years, and then I was out, and that happened. And now I love my job. Like now I moved into a space that I like in my day to day. And that was the peace I made with it. If somebody hearing that, and actually I've had conversations recently with people, and it's like, do you think I shouldn't go into a big law firm? I'm like, I'm not making prescriptions, right? Because I'm not in the driver's seat. You are. So I don't know what your value set is. We can talk about that. But even if I did, there's also a temperament thing. I have this interesting ability to kind of disappear into the margins, which can be a little bit sad sometimes, but it's the robot squad thing, Pete.
Hell yeah, dude. Robot squad.
Yeah, just like being able to kind of be like, I'm just gonna hunker down and just do really good work, has actually saved me on a lot of occasions. So I just kind of avoid some of the weird stuff that happens on the side.
I'm frustrated these days that everybody's like, apparently now it's popular that every guy's autistic. Like they're just like all the normal guy stuff. They're like, yeah, that's all autism. We're all autistic now.
Yeah.
I'm like, for the true robot squad, like I feel like it's cultural appropriation. Maybe that's wrong to say, but
I've been very. Do you Alexandria? Of course you do. She goes by, I forget what she goes by on the server, but she and I spoke, and her son is high support need, autistic and nonverbal. And we talked about this of this kind of proliferation in the last 5 to 10 years of people self-assessing, self-diagnosing, things like that. I've been very careful as I step into that with myself, being later in life. Actually, I am actually going to do an assessment next week. I just had it scheduled with a psychologist, and we'll see. But
they're going to be like, I'm going to steal a joke here. He's going to be like, you're not autistic, you're just an asshole with a hobby.
Yeah. Or it's like I always joke. It's like, is it neurospicy brain? Is it trauma, or is it just me? Like it's like, I don't know. It's like, oh, you're not autistic. That's just Sam. It's like, oh, that actually, yeah, that makes sense. That tracks.
Yeah. Oh wait, no. The joke was you just rude with a hobby. Yeah.
There's also a thing with people really wanting to be marginalized who otherwise would not be. That's like. And I don't want to like.
I don't think I could make that claim. You go ahead.
It's a weird space to be in, and so like I'm very cautious because I don't want to claim anything for myself, and I also don't want to take anything away from others. But it would explain a lot. I guess I'll put it that way.
The working out the values on this feels like it's coming together fast. Like once I got the drawing in there, like getting this figure to like. It's like without having to feel so slavish to like the specific structure, just like getting the lighting and stuff pegged in here has been not to switch this topic back to actually art or whatever.
Yeah, but, no art on this server. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
I thought I was like really scared at first just because I was like, what if I do a really, really bad drawing? And now I am wondering like, I'm just wondering if maybe I'm having like a actually super easy time today because, I'm not having to be so slavish to it. God damn it. There. I'm trying
sorry if you already explained this, but what was the choice behind having color in the background to start? Is it just to add like an interesting texture?
So like I find that like I've been doing this generally is like a starting point to like adding a background. It forces me to really consider the silhouette. Like there's a point where I have a drawing, right? And I'm like, well, the silhouette's where the outside of the drawing is. But then when I actually go to block in the silhouette, I start to go like, ooh, actually like that arm's not in the right place. And there's something about it that adds like a lot of ability to, like, I get a sense of perspective in it that I don't feel like I always get organically from a drawing or even from like a loose block in. And so like having that background, like I at least want to have a gray, but like there's something about really blocking in and making a choice to separate the figure from the background that gives me this like way clearer sense of where I'm at. I discovered that by accident because I started like I was working on Hellraiser, and I was doing this thing where I was doing these really loose like drawings, like the same way I was showing, where I start off with like the face and I draw it big and I shrink it down and I draw the torso and I shrink it down and I add the legs. And I was like, well, it should look moody, because every time I was doing it with like a light gray background, I was like, it seems like it's like the Hellraiser people are just like standing there with the lights all the way up. So I went to go block in but I couldn't draw black on a black background. So I draw it in black, and then once I got the drawing in, I would block in the black. And I realized that really quickly and loosely blocking in the black, it didn't matter if it was in the foreground or background. So I just do it over the top because it was the next layer. And there was like something a little magical that happened that wasn't like necessary. I've tried to see if other people try it out, if it does anything for them. I haven't seen anybody that really gets a lot out of that, but like I feel like subconsciously I get something out of it. And it really helps establish this like separation for me that I don't fully understand why it's helpful, but it has been helpful. So I do it before I start to get the values blocked in for the figure. So once I have a structure, I do the color field, and like I don't know, but the studies I've generally been doing the color fields in color rather than just doing them in black and white and having them colorized as part of the figure, because that also helps create like a really like strong amount of separation between the two. And that is that's why. I mean, it's like it's something I might end up at some point realizing that I'm either doing something in the wrong order, or making some sort of choice that's actually making it harder on myself. But I keep kind of trying to. I feel like it's kind of working, and so I've been kind of trying to tune it a little bit from here. I've drawn on top of it a little bit, so I don't want to mess with it too much. But yeah, I don't know. It's been good, and like I mean, today it's like as soon as I had that blocked in, I started to feel like I knew how to fill in the area that wasn't the background. Like once it was just like me and the character, like it became a lot more obvious like what the next steps were.
There's like one of the big takeaways from what you just told me is even at your level, there's still the stuff that's like, I don't know why this works, but it does. I just like, I find that so helpful. I think I'm always fighting for some kind of like monolithic, static, like by Fayette workflow. Like this is the workflow. It's like, or just like, it's basically just a series of one trick after another to keep you going, to help you solve problems.
Yeah. I was doing a live demo yesterday, and I was trying to draw like something from scratch in Photoshop. And I remember last time I did it here, where I was using the Chrome brush. I went to go repeat that, but then once I got it into Photoshop, I decided to diverge really strongly from it, and I started using painting like the way I thought like the old school concept art guys used to do, like sort of a Craig Mullins style thing. And I don't think I've done that kind of painting, like attempted that kind of painting in a decade. And I was like, oh, this is like kind of working in a way that like I don't totally understand why it works either. I think you're right though. I think like I always assumed that everyone just had like a really good handle on what they were doing and why when it came to these very chaotic workflows. But what I'm starting to realize is that there's just a certain amount of like there's a certain amount of value that comes from just like a comfort with work, with like not knowing what happens next. And yeah, oh my God, I'm trying to figure out
which should be liberating, but for some people like me, who for reasons I won't go into, just have an insane obsession with doing things the correct way, like it feels terrifying to be like, wait, there's a moment of uncertainty in this workflow, it must be broken. It's like, it's art, bro. This is how it is.
Yeah.
I mean, that mode of thinking has probably served you quite well in your career as a lawyer, if I'm not mistaken.
That there's always a correct thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so yes. The short answer, the slightly longer answer, that's actually think very interesting for us as artists as well, is that there are moments of built-in uncertainty, and I get paid to make a judgment call.
Right.
It's almost like I needed something equivalent for myself. I needed the kind of the spiritual validation of being like, Sam, you can make a judgment call here. And there's a being a lawyer is really interesting because it kind of short-circuited a lot of my self-doubt, because I like literally have a sunk cost, right? Like the amount of money I paid to switch over to law, which I'm very blessed in that I've paid down that literal debt. But also because I'm licensed to do it, right? I'm certified by the state to do it. So it's like, it's kind of circumvented my self-doubt with art. And I suspect other people here resonate with this, is like, if we got into art, it's because we have some modicum of taste, and in most cases, we have quite a bit of taste above the typical person, and the potential for self-doubt is immense because we just see the gap between us and what we love. But I think that gap, I've learned to let that actually be my ally. Is like, envy itself is a useful tool, right? Because you know what you care about and you can work towards something, and you may not land it today. But if you get on the path, to say that you will land it is not quite correct, because you're going to make your own art. And so it'll never be one-to-one comparable to other people's art. But there's like, if you get on the path, it is inevitable that you will move towards the things that you care about. So it just took me a long time to get to that confidence in my own taste, to be honest. By the way, Comic Stance in chat asks you, Pete, do you consider this speed painting?
No. That's a good question. Oh my! You just reminded me chat exists. Oh God, I could go at the beginning of every day. I say, today is the day where I am going to be really good on chat, and then I start to zone in on the painting, and then someone goes, "Hey, someone said something interesting in chat." I go, "Fuck."
Well, when I know I'm not officially a mod. Well, at least not in this.
I can give you a mod.
No, well, I have limited. I am assisting the true demiurge, who is Dustin, on a few things. But when I'm on, I just try to keep track of chat for you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm actually doing lawyer work right now. But
you're billing for these hours.
Yeah, no, I'm on salary, but yes, theoretically I am billing. But whatever. And this, I literally, to Anya's point, I literally have a record of me.
Don't make a record of you doing crimes. I think that is my legal advice to you.
Thank you. That's actually, everyone, this is the real purpose of Huckleberry Art Academy, is come get legal advice from Pete Mohrbacher and Sam Lamb. That's really what we're trying to do here. But
I wanted to mention something when you were talking about why we get into art. I think a lot of people get into art to escape crippling anxiety, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't think it's so much that like there is like a feeling of taste we have. It's just a way of escape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say more about that, Anya, because I agree. Like, I feel when you say that, part of what I'm thinking about is just the idea that, like, for me, art is 100% been a type of escape, but not the type of escape like where I lose myself in a book or a video game or something like that, because art demands my participation, like really active decision making. Well, what I found, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, is like, it generated new anxieties, or I should say that the anxiety I thought I was escaping from Trojan horsed its way into art. I was like, wait, you're not supposed to be here.
No. You see, art, I always tear up a little bit of that scene in Return of the Jedi where Luke fights the, is it Return of the Jedi? Where he fights the version of Darth Vader in the cave in Dagobah. Where he goes into the cave in Dagobah and there's like Darth Vader's down there and he like fights him and kills him and he cuts off his head and then inside the helmet is his own head. And I'm like, yeah, man, that's it. that's what it's like.
Yeah.
Like you go into, it's like art is this way of sort of confronting a, like, you know, you end up going inside of your own like personal experience to a degree, and it forces you to confront like your own like personality and taste and stuff. So like you only find in there what you bring in there. You know, was that Yoda's like, he's like, what's in the cave? And Yoda's like, only what you bring with you. And I'm like, oh fuck, that hits pretty hard for me.
Yeah, like Adam knows this because Adam's had front row seats to this with me, but like 100% real for me too. But like Anya, to your point it's so wild that happens because art was always meant to be for me, like on paper and in spirit, was supposed to be like the place I go to not necessarily find joy. I don't know if that's the right way of putting it, but like this is where home is for me, right? And then I brought this it turns out that it was me all along. The call is coming from inside the house. The big thing that got Trojan horsed in was so like the first 3 months when I really intensively got into art, because I've been on and off with it for a while, but I really committed at the beginning of COVID because I wasn't going anywhere. About 3 months in, I take my first course, and all of a sudden that was the vehicle for perfectionism, for dogmatism, for all the stuff that, like Adam, you said, has actually served me in other parts of my life. But in this case, it mixed somewhat alchemically with the desire for joy and poisoned it because it was happening at an existential level, right? It's like, this is a place where I get to just be by myself, and it's like I brought this stuff in with me, and it was really bad for a few years where anytime I sat down to do art, I just dreaded it because I felt like I was confronting like my own dignity, which is so silly to say out loud, but I also don't think I'm alone in this.
Dignity. I don't think about the concept of dignity very often, so I'm like parsing that right now.
I am like super selfish with the art I make, so I don't really maybe get that. Like I paint the stuff that I like to paint, so I just get lost in the process and like the feel of just making it, like more so than the outcome of it. And maybe because I make so many small paintings, like I can always just throw away the ones that don't come out right. So
I love that. I actually a big benefit of being on this server has been like just the emphasis on making stuff. That's like one
as
reason
opposed to like making your masterwork and defining your voice and like determining who you are in like some larger sense. It's like, nah, dude, we're here to like make fucking JPEGs. Chill. Like,
it's like, I hear from people a lot, like, oh, you should paint this or you should study this or whatever, and I keep thinking like, no, just paint the thing that brings you joy. Paint the thing that makes you happy, and paint it over and over and over again until it stops, and then find something else that does.
Yeah.
Because like, I don't know, like the idea of burning out on art feels so depressing to me. It's like, because it's this like spark of joy in my life, so having it be ruined by whatever anxieties come from me feels like terrible.
Yeah, it's actually very appropriate that I finally accepted that realization as I've been working on the Archangel Haniel, specifically as the Archangel of Netzach. It just occurred to me, you've done Haniel before, right, Pete?
Yeah, as the Angel of Capricorn.
I didn't. Oh, yeah. So I'm doing her as the Archangel of Netzach, the Kabbalistic sphere, and there's not a lot that's been written about her, but like the little pieces I was able to find, like in the like Golden Dawn esoteric sources, because she's associated with Venus, she is associated with the arts. So it's very appropriate, I guess, at this moment that like as I confront this figure who I've been thinking about painting for years now. I'm like that it would find this is like I truly have enjoyed making this piece because I finally I stopped making it precious, and paradoxically it's going to be probably the coolest thing I've made because of that, because I'm just like letting it go. My earlier art has this quality of always looking over my own shoulder. Do you guys know what I mean? Where it's like I'm not Anya, like what you're describing is what I'm finally getting towards, and I feel like I just started. But before, all of my art up to this point, up to this year, was very like every mark I made is like, is that a mark Frazetta would make? Is this what Leyendecker would do? Which is okay to a degree, but like when you don't even trust yourself to make decisions, like the art that ends up might be kind of impressive on some level is like, wow, Sam, you like, you know, you're getting better at anatomy, which is like, cool, I get a gold star for that. But the piece just, it's not me, right? Like I wasn't really present for the making of that art.
Yeah.
and I'm getting to where it sounds like you are, and that's where I always wanted to be. It just like it's a little sad that it took me 3 to 4 years of a detour to get there, but it is what it is.
It
like,
is sad. You're
I
right.
think some people never get there. I think like
that's so
this
true.
kind of like idea of like we have to be as good as the person next to us or better, or otherwise we're not succeeding in what we're doing. I think that's such a poison.
Is this hitting for anyone else? Is this hitting for me?
This is old.
I
This is
think-
old shit. This is a classic. I'm just playing the classics here.
yeah.
I think, Sam, the fact that you've been fighting so hard in this journey and that you've been able to articulate what you've been missing and what you want to gain, when you do reach that point, you're going to be able to capture it better and appreciate it more than somebody who's found it intuitively and drifts off because they didn't realize that they were in the golden spot all along. You know.
It's I think so. I think I certainly feel it right now. It feels so immensely precious. Sorry, in a good way. Like it feels like treasure, I guess I should say. Like that art should be something that has joy. And when I say that, it may sound like I've arrived somewhere. It's actually the opposite. I've just gotten rid of things that were in the way of the fact that that's already true. Right?
Yeah, yes. It is an unloading. It's an unloading of baggage rather than like an acquiring of knowledge. That often is like what unlocks that. I've watched that happen over and over and over again as I've like done mentorships where like I'm working a lot with people who are, they're sort of finished with college and they're in their mid-20s and they're having a sort of identity crisis about like who they are and what they're making. And then they come to me and it's like this process of me trying to help them unwind some of their baggage that they've built up. And that's like what helps them get to the next level rather than like loading up on, fundamental art skills. Like, oh, here's how you paint better. Here's how you draw better. It's like, here, let's like get rid of all the stuff that is just holding you back. And then you can use the skills that you've already acquired. Because in a lot of cases, people have spent many years, before they get to me, have spent many years like getting a lot better at what they do. And they already have like a lot of base skills put in, like already installed. But then like they're not able to get what they want out of them and they're wondering what they're missing. They're like, am I missing the secret knowledge of painting? And I'm like, the secret knowledge of painting was in your heart the whole time. And they're like, I fucking hate that advice and I don't like it. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to make you do homework for fucking 12 straight weeks. Or you're going to do 5 to, somewhere between 3 and 7 paintings a week. And you're going to realize, oh, I knew how to do this the whole time. I just like was telling myself not to in a way that I didn't fully understand. It was actually my own voice, my own plan to like specifically sabotage my creative efforts.
You sound like a Buddhist teacher giving a student koans so that they can.
Oh yeah, I'm just
around.
like, here's a koan, go chew on that, and go sit and face the wall for the next 6 weeks.
Yeah, it's like that's what you want, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what you're begging for, and then it's like, no, it never was. It was never that. By the way, I realize I've been delinquent on chat just to catch you up on a few things.
Oh, yeah?
Concierge 4 says better call Sam in regards to me being a lawyer, I assume. And Dustin had to leave for lunch, and I believe Summer Dragoness also had to leave, and we left them.
Dustin told me he had an appointment today. It was he could only be here for part of the time.
Like, how dare he? Is, I think, the main reaction that I have to that.
He's the real main character of this stream.
For those who don't know, Dustin is, I mentioned he's the demiurge, and that's real. He's my demiurge. Creative Caliber says, I love this so much. Telling my body that making this painting is not the same as going into a battlefield. Like, so valid. And by the way, I go to therapy. I talk to like half my therapy sessions are about my relationship with art, and that's a real thing that some people experience. And for whatever reason, when we have infused art with some existential quality, and the reason for that can be quite personal, you enter fight or flight, right? And then if you were to actually ask someone to rationalize it, they'd be like, I don't know why I'm afraid, right? Like, it's like, what are you afraid? You're afraid you're going to do a bad drawing? And they're like, yeah, I mean, it's not that scary, but your body feels scared.
I mean, I felt scared this morning. I was just saying it out loud because, like, part of it is I'm pretty open about my like expressing myself, like being authentic and stuff. So if I'm feeling freaked out, instead of like saying, "Ooh, I'm sitting here analyzing my options," I'm here freaked out and I'm not sure I'm going to do a good job today. Like, is like the real thing that's happening. I feel like it helps for me a lot to say it out loud, so that because it's like a way for me to access those thoughts. Like, I don't feel like I'm able to necessarily grapple with it unless I'm saying it out loud. So instead of going to therapy, I just like talk to whoever's around and try to say these thoughts, and then like, you know, grapple with them out there in the open. It helps to be self-honest, I think.
Oh, totally.
I mean, that's a dumb thing to say, because like, what's the opposite? Like, I think it really helps when you lie to yourself.
Some people think that. Like,
Really?
they may not say. Yeah, I think they may not say that out loud, right? They like people, but people.
Be like, my strategy for dealing with these kind of problems is I just deny, and the more I can bury my head in the sand, the better I'm doing.
Some people truly advocate for their chains. Like, people want their chains because it's more familiar, right? And I'm one of those people who used to. Is like, well, if you're telling me
but
that I
then
can
you
just
took the Mohrbacher 12-step program, and you've never been more mentally liberated.
Yeah, it was actually just drugs the whole time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
the 12-step programs is just increasing amounts of mushrooms that you took at my specific direction.
Did others not get that when you joined the server? Was that just me? I don't know. I got it in the mail.
You got it in the mail? Yeah. Yeah. I just I put my home address on the return label and everything.
We also
technically it's not illegal because they have to prosecute me under maritime law.
That's was it shipped over the long way from Florida to California?
No, do you ever? I mean, have you ever seen any of that stuff of the guys who are into, was it sovereign citizenship?
Yes.
Oh, I love that stuff so much. Where they're like, "Look at that flag; it's got fringe on it. They can't tell me to do shit."
There's like things that feel like toxic masculinity, but it's not really. But it's like it plays footsies with it. Dammy Killer 37 says, "That's why I've been enjoying the dailies. If something sucks, I can just submit it and be done with it."
Yeah.
Laughing emoji.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, that's me too. Like, I'm like always worried that this is going to be like the worst one, and like every single time I'm like, shit, here I am again, like being bad at art in a public setting, and then I look back over them and it's like some of them are good, some of them are bad. Like, no individual one makes or breaks the whole thing. It's been the process of constantly showing up and doing it over and over again that has been the whole point. And I knew that from the beginning, which is why I've managed to get this far. Because, you know, I didn't get into this with being like an expert studier. My first one that I did was me getting on a live stream and attempting to do this and doing a bad job at it. And like, so like the default is not being good at this.
It's not to benefit from your self-doubt, but like it is wild to me to hear you talk, even though everything you say makes sense, and like I intellectually understand it, just because like when I really got into art, you were like the first. It was because your subject matter is very similar, but also just your art is something I really look up to. So just don't forget, everyone in chat, that your art heroes are also human beings, with maybe 2 exceptions. Like, I don't know, I feel like Ian McCaig or someone like Craig Mullins, I feel like they might actually be freaks. I'm not entirely sure.
There's some mutants out there. I think. Oh, what's his name? Oh God, the Korean guy who did all the super detailed drawings.
Wait, the drafts person, Kim Jong-gi, or
Kim Jong-gi. He was a mutant. Ian McCaig is 100% a mutant. He's also might be a genius.
It was Steven Zapata.
Craig Mullins is also a mutant for sure. Like, there's just some people have like a weird, like either a gene or their like brain developed in an odd way that like made it so that they can do stuff that other people are just like think in ways that other people can't think, and it gives them like weird advantages at art. And there's like I guess you could call it talent, but there's like not a lot of them. There's not enough of them. You could say those people are talented. Everybody else is untalented. Which is why it's like it's easier to just like be like, oh yeah, they're just mutants. Like, like and for probably for different reasons as well. Like each of them has their own kind of X-Men like mutant ability. Ian McCaig loves drawing more than anybody else I've ever met, and I've met a lot of artists. And I think
he looks high. He looks high whenever he's like talking about drawing or
he's
teaching it.
genuinely having a blast. And like I've watched, I went to a workshop where Ian McCaig was teaching. And number one, he's a really good teacher. Like before I unsubscribe from Schoolism, I'm gonna watch his like course because he like the number of like really good like solid actionable nuggets of information per minute from him is like higher than just about anybody I've ever met. But also like, okay, so like the classes are over, last night hanging out, all the teachers are in the dorms like chilling with the students, and a lot of people have these sketchbooks and they're like doing sketches in each other's sketchbooks and stuff. So everyone wants like a drawing from like their favorite instructor. And so Ian McCaig is just up at like 1 o'clock in the morning drawing in other people's sketchbooks for $0, and he has the biggest fucking smile on his face, and he's having just like the most fun anyone has had the whole workshop is Ian McCaig staying up till 1 a.m. drawing for no reason in particular. And I'm like, okay, like we all love art, but Ian McCaig really, really, really loves art.
Really, yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm never gonna like art as much as Ian McCaig, and that's fine. But also, that's the part of the reason why he's like that much better at it.
Yeah.
Like all this little soft skills and stuff, all like the line mileage or whatever. He's just gotten further on all of that. I'm not sure because he actually genuinely thinks different. I think he just loves it more than anyone else, and therefore got like way better at it than everyone around him, and has like and he thinks about it all the time too. So he has tons of insight into it on top of like his ability to do it for himself. So yeah, that's my impression of him. Kim Jong-gi was just like a mutant who had like the ability to like see and like just draw straight out of his head like a fucking printer.
Yeah.
A thing that like everyone thinks is possible and basically is impossible for everyone except for like a handful of people who have like a weird mutant gene. Who else? We had Craig Mullins. I don't know. I like know Craig Mullins' work as being like he's a pioneer in digital art, and I watched a demo with him recently, and he's like, yeah, I've never worked in this method before. I'm like, okay, well, why don't you do a demo with a method that you know how to do? But like, he's theoretically able to create like masterpieces without ever having used a work method before. Like, he's immune to all the rules of process. Everybody else like needs to develop process in order to like produce art in their style. Well, Craig Mullins is just like, he's able to just invent new processes on the fly, and they all work, and try other people's stuff and make those work too. And there's like literally no boundary of process that he can't just like cross without effort, it seems like.
He grokks things at a first principles level. That's like definitely like
it's all he creates from first principles entirely without having to like use the actual work methods that normal mortals have to do. You do not see that very often, if ever.
It's important for all of us to remember that like most of us are in the middle of the bell curve, and there's so much that we have to offer. You don't need to be, for those who are into weightlifting, like you don't need to be like the Ronnie Coleman or the Chris Bumstead of like those guys they're genetic freaks. Also, they're on steroids, right? They're on performance enhancing drugs,
and weightlifting's their whole life.
Yeah, and that's literally their whole thing. And the thing is, like, these guys are actually really cool. Like, if you talk to them, and one of the key reasons that I find them cool is that they don't universalize, right? They're like Ronnie Coleman, who's been through multiple surgeries. He's like, I would not want this for other people, right? It's just something. It's just what I wanted out of this lifetime, and I would do it all over again. But when you hear him in interviews, he's not saying like, yeah, this is the be all end all. It's actually often people who are in the middle of the curve and slightly lower who think that they like have the universal truth of experience, that they have access to that. The people who are actually at the top end of the bell curve are like, this is just, people have asked me, do you have tips on public speaking, Sam? Because I am pretty good at public speaking. I have to be because of the work I do. And I'm like, don't talk to me because it's one of the few things in my life where I'm a freak about. And I'm a wordsmith. That's the thing. I just think in words all the time, and so I'm not a good person to get advice from, because a lot of it comes naturally to me.
Oh,
I have to
I'm
fight for
seeing
art.
accusations of chat neglect. Chat neglect is happening.
Yeah,
After
yeah.
a
I'm
while,
so sorry. Okay,
you
this is
have to
my
get a
bad. This is
lot.
my bad.
You have to get tired of process and just want to create. Yellowing, you're wrong. Like, process is creating. Like, that's my point about like talking about like what the importance of process is. Like, figuring out like a flow to do it. Like, chef. Like, imagine if you're like a chef. You're like, oh, I actually don't do recipes. I just put ingredients in based on what I feel like all the time. It's like, that's not how anyone fucking cooks, right? Like that, like everybody, like process is what art is, like for the most part, for a lot of people in a lot of ways. So the idea of being able to like be a chef but having never ever needing a recipe in order to make delicious dishes every single day is like not a reasonable plan. And not even something that people should necessarily even aspire to. Like, it's like, it seems like it would be the highest order of ability, but it's actually, it's a foolish enterprise that is like not the way that things work. But I'm sure there's probably some mutant out there that's able to do that. And like, we don't look at that and go like, well, I guess I'm never going to be great, or it's not worthwhile for me to try. It's just, we have to acknowledge that like, that's not normal, and like, that's not what we're here for. Process is nearly everything. Like for like the normal artist, for like people who love art, who want to do it every day, like learning and practicing process is really fun. It's like, especially as you develop your own comfort with your process, because process is not about like taking on somebody else's method. Process is like figuring out what method allows you to engage with art on a high level. So it ends up being like this like progressive feeling of getting to know yourself and your own your own preferences better, and like getting more and more of what you want out of the time that you spend working. That to me is what developing process is.
I'm sorry about chat neglect. This is what, God, P, it's your fault for talking about interesting things.
Yeah.
A while back, Gian Gal, we have a couple of first-time chats. They asked, those are some cool gradient maps. Where are they from?
Gradient maps. Oh, hey, guess what? It's time to pimp the website. You want my gradient maps? You really want my gradient maps? Go to huckleberry.art and you can try to get them. They're on the store. They cost $0 fucking dollars. I dare you to get my gradient maps. All right, that's the plug.
Yeah. These are actually the drugs we were talking about. It was actually gradient maps and brushes. We also have Chichamil said there aren't many artists who. Oh, this is weird. Where there aren't many artists who out there like Pete who paints with emotion. I would separate craftsmen and artists. I see quote artist as a huge title that craftsmen want to have, and from it gain negative emotions. I am doing art because of the difficulty of mastering it, so I see myself as a craftsman. Yeah,
I'm calling Robot Squad here. I'm calling a robot recognize robot. That's some robot thinking right there.
Yes, I was gonna say similar.
Yeah, I've developed a very fine nose for identifying fellow autists. Yeah, I see you. I don't agree at all. I think you're over systematizing it.
Yeah, but I think what that, and this is again the maybe autist in me who's talking, but like the heuristic, the cognitive move of saying like I'm focusing on the craftsmanship, i.e. just the technical act of making, did liberate me, because like the word artist initially was very helpful, and then about a few months in it became more baggage than help. And I still use it. It's just a shorthand, but like
artist? It's
like if we say artist because we mean like there's some kind of like we have to make a fucking magnum opus every time we do art, is like no, just make shit. That's like, yeah.
Listen, anybody who takes the time to like make art, to make anything creative, is an artist, and I don't really feel like that's a controversial take. Like you don't need to like prove yourself, and you don't need to do anything special. You just need to take the time to make stuff. It's a title available to anybody. I'm amazed that more people do not seem to want to collect on that promise. Like, what else are we doing with our time? I mean, I have a friend who was taking a break from art and they was just saying that they were just playing League of Legends all day. And I was like, damn, I've been there.
Yeah.
It's just like, that's not taking a break from art. That's like taking time to be depressed. Like,
Yeah, it's a dark path.
yeah.
Yes. Mondala, and appropriately they talk about enlightenment, so very appropriate name, says it's like this is earlier when we talked about how arriving at feeling joy in your art feels like unloading rather than receiving.
Yeah.
They say it's like the concept of enlightenment that people misunderstand. It's not having a light suddenly turn on inside of you. It's really about unburdening yourself and lightening the load upon yourself. Yes, I agree with that.
Like a sudden flash of light, like a horseman passing across a narrow window. You suddenly gain some vision of something that is part of a larger world, and then it suddenly goes away, and you're left wondering, what the fuck did I just see?
Yeah.
It's I love reading about enlightenment, the sort of Buddhist idea of enlightenment, because it like you see glimmers of it in like this like development that you do for yourself. Like you realize, like you have these moments where you get this insight and you realize, oh, it's actually, the problem is actually simpler than I thought. And that like I had more information on how to deal with this thing than what I originally realized. And like you realize how much of the actual challenge is internal. And like that's sort of what we like stereotype about enlightenment, is that you just have this like flash of like, oh, it was right in front of me the whole time. And then when you go looking for the answer to difficult problems, you go looking externally, as though like every single time you've ever heard about enlightenment involves you having to go on some grand quest or whatever. I guess there's a certain romanticization about, you know, going on some grand quest and finding the teacher and all that kind of shit. But it's just like a lot of it comes back to acceptance.
Yeah.
And
it's literally just like, you know, it's when people say there's no ego, that's not like Steven Zapata talks about this, like that's not something that you need to convince someone of. It's actually the baseline reality. And then, right, it's like, and we put stuff on top of it. By the way, Kim Eastviri says or asks, are there any female female mutant artists? And I already gave a couple of answers. Claire Wendling, I think, is probably a freak. I love her; she's so great. And Elisa, who I think
she hates me. She's so mad.
Oh,
at
she
me.
does?
Yeah. She has dedicated her whole life right now to like hating anyone who's ever touched AI. I feel like that's a total misuse of her time and attention as somebody who has such incredible artistic ability to like spend so much of it seething on Facebook at people. Feels like a colossal waste. And so she had turned the cannons on me at one point, and I was like, oh. I was like, oh, hey, Claire Wendley knows who I am. That's crazy.
Yeah, and those who know me know, like I've been involved in a lot of the pushback against AI at a legal level, and so that's like where my heart is. But we've talked about it before. We don't need to go into it today, but I wouldn't say that of course I have nuance about it, because that's all I do is have nuance. But I think that there's a thing of like, there's AI in the abstract, and then there's AI as it's being implemented, right? And those are two different conversations.
Sure.
One of them is more characterized by labor issues and legal issues, right?
Oh my God, the labor issues, they feel like they're not getting brought up enough inside the illustration space.
Yeah, and so that stuff is real, and I don't feel like you're necessarily making statements about that, but it's like, I guess for me, I would caution against, for myself, so I'm speaking to myself partly here, is like, just like throwing the baby out with the bathwater kind of thing, you know?
But also, like, there's a lot of people who are saying, hey, listen, don't hate on creative people, don't hate on artists, you know, worry about the companies that are going to try to exploit artists using this technology. And everyone goes, yeah. And then they immediately start bullying each other. And I'm like, guys, we all know we're not supposed to do that. We all know that that's like not the strategy to go forwards with. But that is exactly what we all get sucked into, because it's sort of like the path of least resistance, because it's really hard to hold a position that has to you know, where we say, hey, I'm being critical of a practice. I'm being critical of a corporation. I'm not beating up on individual people, certainly not individual creators, but then who is in our fucking Facebook feed is not the abstract idea of corporations, it's other people. And so who do we end up actually spending all of our energy hating on and getting mad at and bullying? It's other creatives who are in our fucking Facebook feed because there is a certain amount of proximity, and proximity is one of those things that affects the way that we feel about things. Like, proximity is one of those things we tend to overweight in our emotions. And people's like living on social media means they have constant proximity to other people, and that just leads to them feeling emotional and getting into fights, getting mad, and saying a bunch of mean shit to each other instead of fighting the good fight out there and like taking the stand on things that actually matter when it comes to this issue. Like, I really am frustrated the way that people have taken this whole thing, where there's like real risks that are coming from, like, especially from a labor perspective when it comes to AI, and they have completely dropped the ball on them in favor of trying to figure out who the people are that they should bully on Twitter, which is the worst possible conclusion to this. Like, that is the worst, I think the worst strategy available for us to like deal with the looming issues that we have, you know, when it comes to like AI and labor for artists. We've been trained progressively over the last several years that like the way that we engage with political issues is by figuring out who to bully on Twitter, and it's always been the wrong plan, and it continues to be the wrong plan, and it's getting worse instead of better. Well, maybe not, because I mean Twitter is fucking dying, and like it seems to carry over less into the other platforms that are like technologically geared less to be available as platforms for bullying online. Which is good. Maybe we'll just all move back towards Facebook and start bullying each other on Facebook again instead. I don't know.
Yes. I do. I'm curious though, if
Sure.
you can think of any other female mutant artists to answer Kim's question.
I know. Okay, so some of the artists I know that are like.
Stephanie.
What was it?
Stephanie.
I mean, Stephanie. Stephanie Puimanla is absolutely.
She's like good at everything she touches.
She's good at everything she touches. She ended up being one of the first people who was selling art on the internet, like consistently, because she was a software developer at the time where she was getting into this stuff. So she produces she's one of the most prolific. There's like a few women I know who are some of the most prolific artists I've ever met. Stephanie's one of them. The other one is Jasmine Beckett Griffith, who paints to the point where she loses the ability to grip a paintbrush anymore and then straps it to her hand and does that on like a regular basis. It's an extremely unhealthy level of obsession when it comes to like the process of painting. No one should ever work that hard ever, and yet she continues to do it and continue even well after the point of like diminishing returns, because it's like she's somebody who has made many, many, many millions of dollars at art and has basically everything that comes with success, and then continues to work to the point where she can no longer grip a paintbrush anymore, which is amazing. The thing I found generally when it comes to this sort of, there is a gender disparity in the way that people talk about art. I've known some in the independent space, the majority of people I know that are top performers that have like built an independent brand for themselves that has like sustained them over the course of decades and like established practices that other people have built off of. Most of them are women. And but the thing is like they tend to get their voices silenced in, you know, institutional spaces. Like they get pushed out of institutional spaces, so they don't get awards, they don't get prestigious teaching gigs, they don't end up being part of like major commercial projects. Instead, they have tremendous success in ways that people don't specifically value. So the case of someone like Jasmine Beckett Griffith, you like see her work in an airport or whatever because she's like the modern day what's like a Thomas Kincaid, you know, selling millions and millions of dollars worth of art every single year and being widely popular and having huge lines for her autograph at Disney. But like nobody knows who she. I mean, I doubt anyone Chad's ever heard of her. Like, because like we're a part of like the sort of, you know, certain cultural space, and even though this woman does like artwork that is in the same genre and in the same industries, like is kept out of like this certain type of respect that makes it so that people know who she is, and like that's true in a lot of cases, and probably ones that I don't even know about. It's a pretty old story. So yeah, I feel like I need to go on that rant every time the question of like, hey, how come no ladies are getting brought up in this conversation? It's like, institutional sexism probably.
Yeah, and you have two. I'm technically non-binary, but I obviously benefit from male privilege, and so it's like something I have to check with myself. And I always want to like confirm some of the most important artists in my life are female artists. But yes, there is this kind of filter, this institutional filter that can be hard to escape sometimes if you don't like remember that it's there. Is
Yeah.
like I just like the fact that like off the top of my head when I was talking about mutant artists, I thought of two guys initially is like that's something subject to critique. And there's we have some other really amazing names in chat. Apollonia Sinclair, who's for those who know is like this amazing ink artist among other things. She's great. I actually don't know who Stephanie is. Does anyone have her socials or what's her surname?
She's Stephanie Puimun La. She has one of the best-selling tarot decks of all time. Her work
Yes,
is instantly recognizable.
Didn't she used to be a lawyer? I've actually written to her before.
She used to be a software developer. I don't know if she used to be a.
Oh, okay, you're right.
Would she really? I mean, if somebody told me, "Oh yeah, she was a lawyer before she was a software developer," I would like believe them.
Yeah, totally. It might be.
She's a polyglot.
I feel like
for sure.
I feel like she was. Then I think because I vaguely recall joking with her about the fact that her surname is Law, and like how that's funny. But yes, she's so gracious. I reached out to her years ago because I was so taken by her tarot deck, which I have, the Shadowscapes deck, which is
that's the one.
a masterpiece. That thing is like, and that's saying
Making a new
something.
one, did you know?
I did not know that. I did not know that.
She is also doesn't she also not have the ability to she doesn't, what was that thing called where you can't visualize things in your head? The
Aphantasia.
Yeah,
doesn't-
aphantasia.
yeah, I think she also has aphantasia, but she produces
Let's
like
go.
a finished painting like nearly every single day.
She's a freak for sure, and I mean that with the most praise. I have so many friends who are just like that deck, that Shadowscapes deck is like their go-to deck because it just
She might be the most go-to artist in all of tarot at the moment, or has been probably for a while, and she's still alive, which is astonishing. Like it's like she used to go to like Dragon Con and like, try to hustle commissions or whatever, but like I'm kind of surprised that she's not more famous. I think it might just come down to institutional sexism that makes it that way, because it's like her work is so widely known and acknowledged and is been so commercially successful, and yet like doesn't get brought up in the same kind of conversation, doesn't get invited to the same kinds of cocktail parties as
That's right.
the Ian McCaig's of the world. And doesn't get sought out in the sort of broad commercial sense in the same way. When I was running a workshop, I fucking hired her. I fucking hired her as many times as she would let me, because I thought that she had a ton to bring to the table. But I was like, I think one of the only people who like thought it was an incredible thing to have Stephanie there at their workshop, like offering her unique perspective.
when I think of an artist who's like, I'm so glad we brought her up because like when I think of an artist who's just like in their corner of the planet, just like making cool shit, like she's definitely at the top of the list. Like she's so prolific. It's
she
so
really
insane.
used to be a lawyer too. What the fuck? Like
I could be wrong,
That's
but I'm
crazy
pretty
if
sure.
that's true.
I'm gonna look at her CV.
I didn't know that of her personally. Like, I never heard that if that's
But
true.
Anya and her hang out sometimes online, and so like we can find out. It's like not hard to figure this out, but
Yeah,
she's
I
such
could
a
just be misremembering. She definitely was a software engineer, which I used to be as
she's
well.
such a polyglot that it is possible, but it would be crazy that we would have known her for this long and never learned that she was a lawyer.
For those who are asking which Stephanie we're talking about, I just posted her URL to Shadowscapes.
Yeah, if you look up Shadowscapes, that's I think
yeah,
the easiest way
and
to
I'll-
find her through a Google search. I'll pull her.
I also want to mention that LGN Art posted Aruseli, or Nightjing is her legal name, who's like basically a kid, but is like one of the most mature people. I've heard several of her podcast interviews, and I'm just blown away by how thoughtful she is. Nightjing, and she's pretty good. I've actually seen she has a course I think on Class 101, and I've seen some of her videos. She's a pedagogically quite surprisingly good teacher. So that's another person, up and coming female artist / artist. Yeah, so that's.
But yeah, Stephanie's got a crazy process, and then, there's just like, she's always like producing, like, she'll be like, oh, I'm producing this new series, and I'm doing like, unique drawings on every single frame for every single drawing and like every single print, and like just creating more work by hand than just about anybody I've ever met. And it's like, and so it's like, oh, she's like, oh, I guess I'll just make another tarot deck. Like, of course. And like, and then every piece has like a million tiny marks in it. It's not all random. It's like a lot of it is like really precisely rendered, like botanical or animal figures, and that mixed with like abstract and using like her watercolor in really inventive ways, and you know, sort of pioneering her own specific use of materials and stuff on top of being like master at like drawing things on purpose. It's she's up to a shitload. And then, you know, she built her own, she wrote her own like credit card, you know, checkout script back when nobody else was able to sell online. She was like programming her own website to be able to like take people's money, because she's also like fucking smart when it comes to business. So it's like she's able to build the technology and the art and also run the business, and is the mastermind behind all of it, which is great. Like hearing her talk about how she had like she had this massive success with tarot cards at retail, but like the royalties never really add up with those kinds of retail releases. So she developed an entire business strategy on how to actually make it be her primary income by selling accessories through her website and stuff like that. So super thoughtful when it comes to the side of business as well, which is not typical for artists to overlap between creativity and business. So that was one of the ways in which I was drawn to her, was the fact that she was one of the only people I met on the convention circuit that was fluent in that sort of thing. And then I found out she had all these other incredible talents as well.
I wish I were cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I meet people like this and I just go like, well, I'll just be good at my two things, I guess. Like, you know,
you're good at many things.
That's as good as I'm gonna get. Like, it's fine. Like, we don't all need to be like mutants. Like, we all just have like our own little things that we do, and people our own identities, and it's fine just to be ourselves. Everyone wants to be the fucking main character.
I think. Oh, I don't know if Dustin just joined or came back.
Yeah, welcome back from lunch, Dustin. Love Wiley Beckert. Sorry, yeah, Wiley Beckert has really good stuff. Jaw Cooper, very good stuff. Ron Jaw is a man.
Is a man. Yes, yeah. But I do want to say that
Ron Jaw's art is awesome. I don't think any of them qualify to me as mutants, though. They're all just like really good at art and have their own clear voice. Oh, polyglot's multiple language is polymath. Kim corrects me. Polymath is like...
That is correct. I was holding my tongue.
Knowledgeable across multiple disciplines. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here I am trying to use big fancy words. Okay. I am overall... There's a lot of like little moments about this that I'm actually pretty happy with. And the fact that I'm like not following anything directly is like part of the reason I feel like I'm able to like make them. Like the sort of shininess of the skin and the way I've been able to like sculpt out like the shoulders here is something I always really love. Like I seen like these really really sculpted like shoulder and collarbone area. I always think that is very cool, and I've been taking what's already there and like building it up a little bit on my own. And I realized I actually liked my version more than what was already there, and I'm like, that should be the goal. I should be elevating this stuff. And I feel like by releasing myself from getting it exactly right, I actually am able to like get more out of it, like get an image that I like more. So I'm gonna try to do this again tomorrow, and maybe this might even become my like standard way of doing a study, just because it's like so far been very pleasing to me. And self-pleasure, as I've said, is maybe one of the highest possible things, like accomplishments that you can achieve as an artist, in the least perverted way possible.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not interested anymore.
Yeah. For anybody who's into that.
Is the view? I still have this thing when I watch amazing painting, and it's like I literally was in the room for most of this, and I'm so blown away by what I see on the screen versus both.
I don't know. Like I overall, I don't think it's like the entire image is like really great or whatever. I just I'm happy with the things that there's like moments in it that I'm happy that I accomplished. And this is true with a lot of my work, is that, there's always pieces that I go, wow, I'm really happy that I pulled that little moment and thing off. And it sticks with me and makes me think of it very fondly. But it's not necessarily those pieces aren't necessarily the ones that actually like resonate with people. So I'm pretty sure there's plenty of people who are seeing this and going like, you've done better. I've watched you do better, but like from a purely selfish perspective, I'm feeling like I'm kind of getting it today. I'm kind of on it today. There's a few more things that I want to do with this though. We'll see what I feel at the end of it. Anyways, what were we just talking about? People whose art we really like. There's a lot of them.
Yeah. I do have to jump off soon, and sorry, Justin. But Double John just joined the Twitch chat and said, "Wait, what's the standard new weight, Pete?" I joined late, so I just quickly TLDR.
Oh yeah. I can go through.
Oh no, actually, Pete, you do it. You TLDR.
Yeah. So today my little experiment. I'm trying to do at least a little experiment on every single study, and my little experiment today was to start. I can peel it back. To start with a drawing that was loosely based off the reference instead of exactly like trying to recreate it as grid. And this is leaving me with a little extra freedom to try to not copy things exactly as they are, but more along the ways that I see them and experiment with exaggerating the qualities I like about them, which is something that people typically do with studies. And I have not felt brave enough to do up until today, where I decided that was my big experiment for the day. And I'm feeling really good at the moment. Like, but art's always a roller coaster, right? Like there's this wild sort of up and down of like, oh my God, I'm so smart, I'm doing it, I'm great. And then you work a little longer and you're like, oh, I'm a fucking idiot. All the stuff I thought worked, actually, it only kind of halfway worked. And, there's other things that I'm missing and it's actually not that good. And, it's just this little moment and now it's kind of past and I don't even really see it anymore. So there's a chance that I like descend down to the other side of this roller coaster at some point, but at the moment I'm like on the upper end of it. I'm like, yeah, I think I'm doing it. I think I get it. I think I've learned something today that I could potentially carry into like future paintings and future studies, and that like all of this study, that 57 of these in a row or whatever, is actually started to add up to me like having real tangible better abilities as an artist. Which should be the standard, right? You would assume that that's what would happen. That like doing studies for 2 or 3 months straight would like make you better at art. But I've never done studies before, so this is my first time finding out exactly what that's supposed to do, firsthand at least.
There's concept artist. I apologize. I've actually never heard his name pronounced, so I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. But is it Dama Jurabev? You guys know what I'm talking about.
Oh, Kim's asking, is Sakimi-chan a mutant? No, Sakimi-chan is just another artist like me, who has a very particular way of making art that she's developed that's like effective, and then also a really good like business person. Like Sakimi-chan knows her business stuff really, really well. I don't want to blow up her shit too much, but I have a really strong suspicion that she has developed a network of collaborators to allow her to basically release a new finished painting every single day for several years. I'm sure she touches every painting, but I'm pretty sure that she is not the only person that touches her paintings. That she is when I saw her at New York Comic Con, there was like a whole row of booths of like friends of hers that had like basically the same style, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. So I think she's got like a whole network of employees, including ones that are like people who like help her with the production of her work. And like I don't know if that's like a known fact or if I'm like sounds like I'm accusing her of something. Honestly, I think that what she does. I've always thought that what she does is super smart, and that she's super good at running an art business, and that like she's developed an iconic style that has affected like a lot of other people, and that a lot of people copy her. And that's like a great sign of success. And then she has then taken that and like I think folded it into like a solution that allows her to like expand her artistic production through like building relationships with other artists, which like I think I don't see that as like an accusation. I want to make it clear that I think that if that's really what she does, that it's a good thing. But I don't know if that's something that she talks about publicly, so it might not be true. But if somebody's like, oh yeah, she absolutely does work with collaborators in all her pieces, and that's like a known fact, like it wouldn't surprise. It would be, that's my assumption, hearing about it. Yeah, it's something that the old masters did. This is like a well-known part about like the way art used to work, because art has always been a product. Like there was a time when art was like a sort of product of the court, and that everybody who was like rich and influential in society needed to have art being made all the time. And the only way to like service that demand was for known artists to develop a studio where apprentices worked underneath them, and like they worked on pieces collaboratively in order to like meet the demand of production using a medium that was incredibly labor intensive. And I think that probably Sakimi-chan's doing the same thing. Which is, it makes her more of a classical artist than me. And like is the path of like fine art for hundreds of years. So, is Sakimi-chan a real artist? I think she's a real fine artist. I think Sakimi-chan probably has a greater cultural influence on art than a lot of the people who are selling galleries. I don't know.
Mohrbacher and Anya and everybody, I'm gonna jump off and
all right, Sam. It's always good talking with you, man.
Yeah, always very, very much mutual feeling. Okay, you're all beautiful. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. So Pete, I'm actually doing one of the paintings, like one of the studies.
You doing one of the
posted.
studies? Oh my god.
And I feel like I failed at it, so I'm actually doing 2 of those. I hate both of them, but we'll post them and show them, because like it's a completely different work process than I usually do. So.
Yeah, Kim says fine art anime booba. It's true. Like, can anime booba be fine art? I mean, yes. Like there are big name pop artists or whatever that have played with all sorts of cultural themes, like anime and pornography being among them. Like there is some amount of presence of these sorts of themes in like even in the fine art space. So though I don't think that Sakimi-chan necessarily is like invited into those spaces or invited to those cocktail parties or whatever. So it doesn't really matter if I say, hey, this is in line with the classic traditions of fine art. I don't know what qualifies something as actually being fine art. Is it really just like a matter of whether or not it sells in the right locations, or does it have something to do with like you trying to do things that are highbrow? I don't know. I don't own a lot of highbrow art, and you can't argue with success. Absolutely. I'm immediately like searching my brain for some example that disproves that, because it's like one of those things where you're like, I want art to be a thing that is like pure and awesome, with nobody who is like a horrible like scammer taking over this space. Like I want it to be pure, and like I want it to be inviting, and I want people to be able to have access to it, and it to be like a shared cultural space that doesn't keep people out, but then it's just like there's got to be somebody who I'm like, yeah, get that person the fuck out of here. Art evokes emotion, and horny is an emotion, therefore anime booba is art. Yeah, sound logic. That's just a math equation, I think. Thank you, Bean Burrito. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think, some people, the people who will like build their whole career around drawing erotic art, I figure they just must really enjoy that process, that like part of their lives, that like, there's something about drawing erotic work that like they have real genuine interest in. I've never had an interest in drawing erotic work, which is why you've never seen any from me. if it was something that I wanted to do, it was something that you would have seen from me. Because I don't have any kind of scruples about it. So yeah, my total lack of like having sort of eroticism in my work is like, I don't know, probably something for my future therapist to handle rather than, you know, any real sort of statement on my part about what is and is not artwork. There's like the shadow here is like kind of going in odd directions, like going towards the front. Sex sells, yeah, to some people. I would say different things sell to different people is actually a better description, because totally unsexy art also sells very, very well. Some of the most financially successful art ever has absolutely no sex in it whatsoever. While some very sexy art has also been very successful in its own way. They're really not. I don't really think that one of them, like, I don't think there's any kind of universal truism about like whether or not something sells better or worse based on its like total sexiness quotient, its SQ. Mandala is saying, if I knew what the market for erotica is, I probably would have entered it by now. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I guarantee there are like a bunch of people who got into it, like never figured out a way to make any money with it, and then dumped out. Because it's like, I never really thought that the idea, it was like a hack, like a hack that allowed you to like, you know, easily make a lot of money at artwork. I never felt like that was likely to be true. Double John says, I don't see much erotica art in Discord, so I'm reluctant to do any. Yeah, well, I mean, I think there are like certain rules about like Discord doesn't want to create like environments where you know, they have to deal with like too much moderation. So I think that there's a lot of Discords have policies that try to restrict 18 plus content. And like there's actually been discussion on the Huckleberry server about whether or not it's like a problem that we, like some of our reference images that are getting posted involve artistic nudity. And certainly there's not like a strong population of erotic art that's happening on Huckleberry. And we're not planning on really like becoming the home for that. We want it to be as inclusive as possible. But like there is some concern that it just like having any amount of artistic nudity in reference material could get our server in trouble, you know, with the Discord moderation at large. And honestly, I think it's worth it for us to just stand our ground on like, hey, we're not going to get weird about it. We're just going to treat it as normal because it is normal. And, you know, if there's some issue down the line with the fact that there are sometimes reference images that have naked people in them, we're not even doing photographs. I'm talking about like master studies. If someone's going to come at me that say that like we have a problem because our master studies have some amount of nudity in it, you know, I am going to maintain the same like level of moderation about nude content as they do in like the Met or the Louvre, you know. So it, you know, like there are active Discords dedicated to NSFW art, yeah, but they're probably flagged for it. And I think there's different rules that apply for servers that like are marked as 18 plus versus ones that are marked as being more open-ended. I'm having to click the moderation so much. Apparently the word big is moderated. Kim just discovered that one. Big difference between art nudity and porn, though. There is a big difference. I think it's an obvious difference. And we are we're not going to try to like skirt the edges to discover like what the boundaries there are. We are just going to continue to have master studies of masterworks that often contain nude figures, because that is what's in all the museums. All the museums are full of naked, paintings of naked people, and so the Huckleberry server is going to continue to have art that conforms to those same standards, and that is going to be treated as though it is normal. And if anybody has a problem with it, they are welcome to, participate in other spaces. It's so normal. I went to the world's shittiest art school. I mean, not the shittiest, but I went to one of the shittiest art schools ever. My art school was sued out of existence by the federal government for committing fraud, and they had nude models. I taught at an art school for 3 months that refused to have nude models on campus because they said the students weren't ready for it. And these are college students, right? So there are such places out there in the world that think that it's not okay for like college level art students to have access to nude models. But even my really awful, super subpar college that I chose, they even had nude models, and they treated it as totally normal and were total professionals about it, and no one got all weird about it, except for the one time that one model got a boner in the middle of a pose. That one.
Did you miss?
I didn't notice because I was too busy like drawing his upper lip or whatever. I didn't notice that he was fully erect. I was like 3 feet away from him. Anya was there too, so she can attest to this. I'm not just missing chat. I'm also missing full-on erect
Yeah, you were
penises
like, why
in
did
front
the
of me.
model leave?
Hey,
like,
why
did
is
we
class
set
over all of a
up?
sudden?
Like, why are we about to watch a movie now? What happened?
Yeah. What's going on? So if you ever wonder how I can miss chat so easily, just know that I have a long history of missing things that are right in front of my face. Literally. I'm at just about 2 hours, and I'm like pretty much done with this thing, and I'm pretty chuffed on it. So I'm just gonna do a couple little, see what's popping out at me is like, in an artistic sense, not in a literal sense. And then call this one finished. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to try this process again tomorrow and see what happens with it. What if I've just unlocked the future of studies for myself, huh? What if this was the day? What if today was the day? Wouldn't that be cool? God, I'm having to click the accept button so much talking about bone rods in front of me. Oh, I didn't know that models are not allowed to have boners. Yeah, it's not, they don't want, what are the words I'm trying to find here? They don't, it's not a standard practice to be fully erect while being a life drawing model,
To be fair, though, it was a substitute. He wasn't there.
He wasn't on a regular rotation. Yeah,
he was filling in.
Yeah, the people in the regular rotation were pretty chill. He
was filling in all right.
Yeah, they were fully comfortable. But then, yeah, I'm having click accept a lot. We're using all kinds of new words in here today.
No.
Yeah, there's very few ways that you can mess up being a nude art model. I think I wonder what is going through someone's head when they're making that mistake. Like, is it that they have a kink and they're like, oh, it would be so cool to be like naked in front of a room full of college students. And that's like, and they think about that, and then they're like, oh, I'll be able to keep a lid on it. I'll be able to stay cool. It'll just be in my head. Or are they bored and they're just like, damn, I'm bored, and their mind starts to wander.
Maybe they were just.
I sure hope he got paid for it though. I always want creative people to get paid for the attempt. So I say I'm rooting for that guy to have collected his $50 at the end of the day.
Honestly, I think being a model for life drawing is super tough. Like, just holding any pose for any amount of time is rough.
Yeah.
Without like moving at all.
Yeah.
And they were really good at like getting back to where they were too. Like when we had long poses, just to put their arms and feet where they were before.
Well, it was like, Kim's like, he's got to be thinking, don't get a boner, don't get a boner, don't get a boner. But like, it's like this way I remember it is like he's doing a sitting pose, right? And he's kind of like bent over in a sitting pose, and that's where it went wrong. And then it's like, okay, switch poses, and he's like, time to pay the piper.
The thing that surprised me is like why he didn't do just like didn't do like a back one or something.
Yeah,
like,
well, facing the other way. I mean, he had kind of like a whole like half dome around him of people. No, you can't just turn your back and hope that no one notices.
Right in front of him. Like the thing that I remember in my mind was just like you were sitting
we
right in
we
front
were
of
front
him.
row, yeah.
You were completely oblivious.
Yeah.
And like look at you and like look at the model and then back at you and just thinking like, okay.
Yeah, why are you not reacting to this? And I'm like, I'm trying to get like the shoulder, I'm trying to get like the armpit right, Why aren't you like, oh wait, what? There's a problem? What's going on? What's the matter? It's not like this guy had his erect wiener waggling in my direction. Oh wait, really? Yeah? Really? Oh man. Crazy. Wild.
Are you gonna get censored for all of this?
Talking about things? No, you can talk about stuff, the existence of stuff. You can't show it.
Oh,
right?
okay.
This is TOS, right? Discussing the existence of like a memory of watching a nude model like lose their job.
So how long are you planning on going? It's after 2.
How long am I planning on going for?
Yeah.
That's what she said. I'm done. I've been polishing last couple of little bits, just being a little selfish with it. But no,
Because I'm done with mine, and I want to photograph it, and while I'm talking to you.
This is typical wife behavior. Oh, I'm done. Are you done yet? Are you done yet? Are you done yet? Like, where's? I want to get out of here. I'm finished. I'm just waiting on you now. I'm getting this now on my Twitch streams in addition to every other aspect of my life.
Well,
I gotta post. I'm gonna post. Let me post. Oh, I did this at a pretty low resolution. Huh. Finish studies. Interesting couple of days on the studies.
I think this one came out good.
Thank you. It's good. Well, you know my work, so I can trust your judgment on this. Well, I'm posting on the Discord. I think it probably makes sense to show the Discord. So let's see. I'm going up to daily. And I see some people have already beat me to today's study. Excellent to see. Love to see it every time. I was thinking, oh, it's going to be crazy when I hit number 100, so I started to type out 100. Not there yet. I'm only about halfway to 100. Damn. I love seeing these dailies. Everybody getting in here and doing them their own way. So cool. And like seeing people who are just getting started with this, like try to do it and follow along. Primarily do 3D art and getting back to 2D skills with the dailies. Awesome. And then Guanto's over here just like pumping out really amazing gouache paintings every single day. Oh, this is cool. The texture of it is like has this interesting kind of photographic quality at a distance. Yeah, I'm gonna do whatever I did today again. I'm happy with this one. I'm allowed to be happy with my own work, right? That's allowed. Damn. Hell yeah, I'm happy. All right, and now I'm gonna post to my sketchbook. Catalog this. Oh, there's my priest guy that I did.
I don't think I've seen this one.
This was my live demo from yesterday. I did this with like I was started with the chrome brush, and then I kind of like attacked it in this kind of like old concept arty, like super abstract way. And someone's like, "Oh, it kind of looks like a priest guy." So I threw a cross on him, and it's like it's really gummy and muddy and whatever. Not a way I typically work, and not one I think I'm even particularly good at. Like the way that a lot of people are really good at faking detail by creating this kind of like crunchy, high contrast look is always super impressive to me because I can never quite wrap my brain around it. And maybe if I was actually like practicing it all the time, I would actually get it good. But it was an interesting little like doodle experiment, and I did both of these in the same day, so I'm pushing out 2 experimental works in one day, which is great. Like being able to try 2 new things artistically, start and finish in the same day, is a big win. And then today, I'm happy with my work. Another big win. I feel like, making art every single day and posting it. It's like it's hard to fail that bad. It's easy to like just always be making stuff and always be finishing stuff, and even on the days where I'm doing kind of a bad job, I'm always enjoying it. So I hope you guys are having a similar experience because I'm really liking this. Is there anything I want to do on the way out of here? We need to put a raid together. Any suggestions on the raid? Will the broadcast be recorded on YouTube? Yeah, we actually have. There's a VOD channel. If you look up my name on YouTube, there's a VOD channel. There's a link. Actually, there's a link to the VODs on the Discord. Let me just. We need to get the portfolio review days automation off of Stream Elements. I'm gonna make a note for that really quick. Yeah. All right. Notes for overflow. Because we're not really planning on doing the portfolio reviews on a weekly basis. Remove. Yeah, it's something I don't know how to do, so I'm writing it down so I don't miss it for later. Okay, so now we need to find somebody to raid. Anybody know someone who's live? Because normally Dustin feeds me targets to raid at the end of the stream. Jubilean Theo is doing some character designing. Let me pull them up. So a good fit. All right. So we're gonna head over there. Only 12 viewers, so it'd be a really nice moment for them if you guys stuck around and hang out and got to see them do their art a little bit. So I thank you everyone for showing up. This has been a really fun session, and I'll see you guys on the other side. Let's see. Oh my god, I normally say that right as I'm logging out, and I hadn't hit the fucking raid button yet. All right. 3, 2, 1. Wow, a lot of people are here today. See you guys on the other side. Goodbye. Let's see, turn off the VCam. Stop.